against another unarmed black man. Witnesses say investigators never contacted them as part of the investigation. The Foundation for Individual Rights in Education, or FIRE, has released an updated second edition of its Guide to Due Process and Campus Justice.
The original guide was released in 2003. This revised version is much larger and was edited by FIRE's Vice President of Legal and Public Advocacy, Will Creeley, who says FIRE realized there was a need.
We thought that enough time had passed and a new generation of students at our nation's college campuses could use a guide to navigating their college's disciplinary proceedings to ensure fundamentally fair practice.
He says there's also a definite need for guidance concerning the increase in sexual misconduct and abuse charges being brought up on campuses across the nation.
Students are very often failed by college judicial processes for sexual assault cases, and I should say on both the side of the accuser and the accused. It's a broken system, but we want to make sure that everybody has as much right to a fair hearing as possible.
FIRE has made the guide available as a free download on their website at thefire.org. Also, educators, students, and student groups may request copies in bulk by contacting FIRE. I'm Bob Kellogg.
Georgia lawmakers have not seen the last of the proposed Religious Freedom Restoration Act. AFN's Charlie Butts reports the bill was tabled in the House.
The bill is designed to prevent state and local governments from passing laws that infringe on the religious rights of people. Government would have to have a compelling interest to do so. Mike Griffin, field director for Georgia Right to Life, tells AFN it was like a buzzsaw cutting the bill to pieces.
And once again, the LGBT activists have taken RFRA hostage and made a lot of demands. And unfortunately, the media is more than willing to be the megaphone for a lot of demagoguing and fear-mongering that's going on out there. And as a result of that, it has a very intimidating effect upon politicians.
There were not enough to stand up for religious freedom, so the situation made for a tough environment.
And it reminds us that the church and pastors need to stand up and speak because they certainly represent a majority of our citizens, and this is a First Amendment right that should be cherished by all.
Griffin recalls a recent poll showing a solid majority of Georgia residents favoring the bill. He says sponsors will be back next year for another attempted passage. I'm Charlie Butts.
For more news and information, visit onenewsnow.com.
$100 days, 100 subscribers at $7 will bring FirstAmendmentRadio.com to the minimum level necessary to sustain it through 2015. Go to support.FirstAmendmentRadio.com. $7 a month. Really, you can afford that for our Protestant First Amendment rights and the gospel of the kingdom message. Where your heart is, there will your treasure be also. Go to support.FirstAmendmentRadio.com.
Years ahead of the dominant media, FirstAmendmentRadio.com and FirstAmendmentRadio.net.
Black helicopters, government corruption, waging war on the New World Order. It's all right here on the Jon Arthur Live Radio Show. Now, live from his worldwide command post in the studios of WXEI, 95.3 FM in Crestview, Florida. Here is Jon Arthur.
Thank you so much, Mr. Jim Michaels. Hello, America. Hello, world. The Jon Arthur Live Radio Show is on the air. We're broadcasting live tonight. Finally, from the studios, of course, of WXEI 95.3 FM, the talk of Crestview. Coming up this hour, lots of good stuff to talk about. The Democratic National Committee says it's okay to kill a 7-pound baby. We'll talk about that. We'll also talk about some thug cops assaulting teenagers and then trying to delete the footage from the phone. We'll also talk about a conspiracy theorist who was arrested after calling the Sandy Hook shooting fake. All this, plus your calls. The toll-free lines right now in a flux, by the way. The toll-free lines are being transferred, and we've been trying to do this for quite some time, trying to transfer to a new company. So it's it's in a flux right now. So give us a call, 253-323-7555. We should have the toll-free lines back up and running very soon. One would only hope. But 253-323-7555, welcome to the show. We haven't been on in a few days because of an incident that happened over the Easter weekend. And I'm not going to go into too much detail, but it was pretty bizarre, to say the least. An individual broke into my home in the middle of the night and tried to strangle Jon Arthur to death. Tried to strangle me to death. Of course, I have martial arts training. I was able, and this, by the way, this was in my sleep. While I was sleeping, a very cowardly act to attack someone while they are sleeping. But I just wanted to let you folks know that I have not been shirking my duties as a radio talk show host. Basically had some stuff going down and been recovering from it, to be honest with you. But we're back in the saddle and trying to deal with the shock, I guess, the reality of this insane world we're living in. You know, day to day, I talk about how jacked up this society is, and I tell you how jacked up it is. I give you examples, and I give you stories every day of how messed up our country is. But I guess I felt like I was immune to it. I felt as though I was immune to the insanity. Well, I learned a hard lesson that I'm not. That I am certainly not immune to the world and the craziness of the world and the people in it. The sad thing is I knew this individual. I put the individual in jail. He's out on bond, and I got a temporary restraining order. And on the 16th, I will be going to get a permanent restraining order against this individual. But the long story short is that you never know people until things get a little dicey. And you never really realize how people are and their character until probably it's too late. I learned a hard lesson, and the devil is certainly working real hard. I'm sure Satan wanted me dead. Because then, after all, there's one less radio talk show host that's preaching the truth, right? And obviously used this individual to try and complete that. It didn't work. He fought the guy off, and he went to jail. And I'm going to make every attempt to make sure he stays there after the trial or the hearing or whatever. But you know, we think that, you know, we're immune. We think that because we're Christians, we're immune. I can tell you that makes it even harder. You know, sometimes, and I was thinking about it earlier today, I was thinking about the fact that, you know, and I guess I was in a really sad place. I was thinking to myself that, you know, I was wondering why we go through the things that we go through. But I guess I answered my own question. The reason we go through this is because God doesn't want us to get complacent. And I think God is trying to warn us that, you know what, things are going to get bad, and then they're going to get worse. And you better be ready. And maybe it was a test to see if, even in my sleep, if I could fight somebody off, and I did. I'm still here. I'm alive to tell you about it. Slammed the guy up against the wall, and then I yelled out to the neighbors to call the police. I didn't know if he had a gun or a knife on him, so I didn't push it. But the devil and this individual did not succeed in killing Jon Arthur. They tried. He tried. He made every attempt to choke me to death and kept yelling for me to die. Utterly bizarre. But we think that, you know, that the people or the demonic ones, it's not always the case. Lately, we've been finding out that the police are some of the most demonic ones. Well, police in Virginia Beach, Virginia have been caught on video assaulting two teenagers after pulling them over for a broken license plate light. And it's interesting because my license plate light on my car has been out for some time, and I always know that that's going to be a catalyst possibly for the police to pull me over and probably harass me. But I haven't figured out how to change the bulb yet. It's an older model BMW, so I'm a little confused. I guess I need to Google it. Need to figure it out probably in a pretty quick fashion because, again, the New World Order police state, all they need is one reason, one good excuse to give you a hard time, and they'll do it. Well, the cops, after harassing and assaulting these kids, tried and failed to delete the footage captured via cell phone. The cops claimed that they could smell marijuana, but had no probable cause to detain 18-year-old Courtney Griffith and her 17-year-old friend, Brandon. They removed them from the vehicle and they searched the vehicle. And they had no reason, no probable cause. It makes me go back to the time when I was pulled over in Loxley, Alabama, and the police officer was basically saying that he thought there was marijuana in my car. I haven't ever basically been a druggie ever. I tried marijuana one time when I was probably maybe 21 years old. Tried it one time. It was horrible. Never did it again. See, I'm not going to lie to you like Bill Clinton and say I never tried it. Tried it one time. It was horrible. I never did it again. But that's usually the great excuse for the Gestapo to pull you over and to search your vehicle and to try and find something on you. Well, the quick-thinking Courtney Griffith pressed record on her iPhone, placed it on the dashboard, capturing the entire incident. Smart girl. When it became apparent that 4 cop cars had followed her home into her driveway and that one of the officers had previously arrested her for possession of marijuana, Griffith asked for a sergeant to be called to the scene. Meanwhile, her friend cited the fact that he is a minor and that police were duty-bound to call his parents. When the boy asked Griffith to make sure the incident was being filmed, the police officers became angered, began barking orders to get out of the vehicle. The cops then pepper sprayed the boy directly in the eyes twice, breaking out tasers, stunning the kid several times until he literally fell out of the vehicle, being beaten on by 5 cops, according to his own account. The boy was then arrested and is currently being held in jail until July on charges of assault and battery on a police officer and resisting arrest. Well, Griffith told the Free Thought Project that the cop who grabbed the phone attempted to delete the footage. They arrested me, never Mirandized me, or Brandon, for that matter, she said. And they sent me off with a summons. When I went back to my car, my phone had been brought off the dashboard and was on the driver's seat. I asked the cops who deleted the video after looking for it in my folder. They all started laughing. It was sickening, she said. I later found it in my recently deleted folder. Well, there's no word yet on an investigation into the incident. However, folks, spread this story. Contact the Virginia Beach Police Department. Ask them to explain the content of the officers. We're going to get the video out. We're going to put it out on Facebook, and we're going to get it out on YouTube and the social media. We're going to get it out everywhere we can, because I can tell you this is outrageous. This is outrageous. If you'd like to be a part of the show, I'd love to hear from you. 253-323-7555. 253-323-7555. Pretty soon we'll have the 877 number back up and running. Until then, my friends, I do want you to keep in touch with me and continue to support this radio show. But getting back to the story at hand, again, more police brutality, more police abuse, and then this time, again, in Virginia Beach, Virginia, these thug cops, after assaulting the teenagers, tried to delete the footage from the phone, but they failed. Just the fact that they did that is illegal. Just the fact, and I mean, you got a 17-year-old in prison for 3 months facing an assault charge for doing nothing wrong. And you got it on video out of the recently deleted files. So shame on these thug cops. Shame on the police in Virginia Beach, Virginia. Shame on all of them. If you'd like to be a part of the show, again, I'd love to hear from you. 253-323-7555. Well, interesting stuff here. Speaking of arrests, speaking of the Nazi police state, a conspiracy theorist has been arrested and ordered to undergo a mental health evaluation. This after he called several schools in Newtown to claim that the 2012 Sandy Hook shootings were fake. Everybody has a right to their opinion. Everybody has a right to what they believe. But I guess what I've got a problem with, what I have a huge problem with, is the fact that this individual was arrested and then forced to undergo a mental health evaluation simply for making a statement. I mean, it's not like this guy hurt anybody. He's got a First Amendment right to free speech and expression. But they haul him off. What I find offensive is they arrest this guy and make him take a mental evaluation, and somebody can try and kill a radio talk show host and simply go to jail for a few hours and then get released on bond and only, basically face battery and burglary charges, not attempted murder charges. The system's broken, folks. The system doesn't work for the true victims. The system works for the criminals. But getting back to the story, 30-year-old Timothy Rogalski called the Sandy Hook Elementary School Tuesday morning and left 4 messages on the school's answering machine before speaking to an administrative assistant. Using his father's name, he said he wanted to enroll a child in the school, but he wanted to make sure no more fake shootings would occur. How do we know what's real anymore? I don't want you to think that I'm a true conspiracy theorist without proof. But, how do we know? How do we know if there really was a shooting? How do we know any of these things weren't just fabricated? Well, after calling 2 other schools in Newtown, police tracked the number back to Rogalski and then arrested him. Now, granted, his behavior is idiotic, okay? I'll admit that. And his remarks will probably be offensive to a lot of folks. I mean, there are a lot of comments I make on this radio show that people find offensive. But the claim that the phone calls were threatening in nature, I believe, is a fabrication. Rogalski said, I just wanted to make sure that there was going to be no fake shooting on the day that I enrolled him. Court records showed, he said. Just wanted to clarify they wouldn't get shot by a fake Adam Lanza. Again, who knows? Who knows? I don't. Again, it's insane. It is insane. And he subsequently gave his name as Don Hochsprung, the name of the deceased principal, for accusing the school of greed for taking charitable donations. I mean, this guy's obviously got a screw loose. Obviously, he's got a screw loose, and again, what I see here is not the fact that this guy is wacky. I find this an affront and a attack on, again, our First Amendment rights to free speech and freedom of expression. So, again, it's very, very disturbing that this guy can go to jail, and he really basically just, voiced his opinion. So what do you think? 253-323-7555. 253-323-7555. He's being held on bond. He's going to undergo the psychological screening. Basically, he's just charged with harassment. He said, I know I have offended people, but they were words. I made no threats. I wasn't going to do anything. And that's my whole point, is the simple fact that he did nothing except to offend. Since when is offending a crime? If that's the case, doing this radio show, I'm a criminal every day. I'm a criminal every day on this radio show. And of course, I have other examples. There have been numerous instances of Americans being arrested, forced to undergo psychological testing for controversial political beliefs. The most noteworthy example was back in 2012. Remember former Iraq and Afghanistan veteran Brandon Raub, kidnapped from his home by police and FBI and Secret Service agents, and forcibly incarcerated in a psychiatric ward by authorities in Virginia. All in response to simple Facebook posts, which the FBI deemed terrorist in nature. Raub's posts questioned the official story behind 9/11. I mean, we've done that on this show, right? And referred to corruption within the United States government and the Federal Reserve. We do that every day. I mean, what in the world? So, I fear for freedom in America. I fear for our system of freedom in America. I mean, people are being forcibly incarcerated in psychiatric wards by authorities. And you see this happen again. It happened again. We're about to take our bottom of the hour break. We'll be back second half. Straight ahead, 253-323-7555.
I pledge allegiance to the King of Kings and to his kingdom come on earth as it is in heaven. One holy nation, under our Heavenly Father, grace, mercy, justice for all.
Gold and silver is tremendously undervalued. Global demand vastly exceeds mine supply by more than 60% annually. There is little in the financial world more certain than a coming explosion in the prices of gold and silver. The U.S. dollar continues to lose value and respect as the world's reserve currency. Our nation faces challenges on many fronts, and a day doesn't pass without another economist bringing forth warnings of impending economic calamity. There has never been a better time than right now to acquire physical gold and silver. Discount Gold and Silver Trading was founded on the principles of truth and honesty. We believe in providing a quality product, quality service, and most importantly, competitive pricing. We provide all forms of precious metals, including American gold, silver, platinum, and rare investment and circulated coins. Silver bars, rounds, and 90% silver bags are on hand for the silver investor. Gold self-directed IRAs are available. Call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188. Toll free, that's 1-800-375-4188.
Visit crosstheborder.org, CROSS, crosstheborder.org, to get your print, EPUB, or PDF version of the book, The Rapture Will Be Canceled. That's crosstheborder.org.
I know you all want answers, and believe me, so do I, and I'll do my best to get them.
Despite Nicolas Cage's promise to do his best to get left behind rapture answers for us, don't hold your breath. Not everyone believes Left Behind is true prophecy. Some may even regard as conspiratorial the mainstream re-release of the Left Behind movie with actor Nicolas Cage portraying the main character as an attempt to further reinforce in the minds of all this perception of false prophecy in order to condition the masses for the play about to begin. If you want true Bible prophecy answers, get the book, The Rapture Will Be Canceled. The author exposes the Latin rapture origin, the 7-year tribulation deception, true Bible revelation of Daniel's 70 weeks, the abomination of desolation, the restrainer, America in the Revelation, the image of the beast and the mark of the beast, and the truth about God's chosen people, and so much more about Bible prophecy. This book will shatter the left behind paradigm of future events. Get the book, The Rapture Will Be Canceled. Visit crosstheborder.org, CROSS, crosstheborder.org, to get your print, EPUB, or PDF version of the book, The Rapture Will Be Canceled. That's crosstheborder.org.
Almighty, most holy God, faithful through the ages. Almighty, most holy Lord, glorious Almighty God.
33 minutes after the hour, you're listening to the Jon Arthur Live Radio Show, coast to coast and around the world. Welcome back to segment number 2, number 2 of the fastest hour on radio. You know, I've been really bummed out that I haven't been on the air for the last week or so. You know, I love the new time slot. And you know, it's a lot of fun doing radio. It's a lot of fun doing movies. But ultimately, you know what? We need to make a difference in people's lives. We need to make sure that America is protected. And again, you know, the Easter weekend was not a good one for me. And how ironic is it that, you know, I mean, this is a and I understand the secular holiday with the Easter bunny and all that garbage. But I also understand that Jesus rose from the dead. And I also realize that, you know, it's a holy celebration. You know, starting with of course Good Friday and ending with Easter and the whole time I went through hell. And unfortunately, my friends, things are probably not going to get a whole lot better. I mean, things are going to be fine in my situation because I will learn to adapt and I will go on in life and needless to say, folks, you know, I will accept the hedge of protection that a lot of the listeners have sent me and wished for me. And, you know, again, this is what we have to come to expect. And I thought the other day, I was thinking to myself, you know what? It's pretty wild that this guy comes breaking into my home, tries to kill me, but couldn't do it. You know why he couldn't do it? Because I have that hedge of protection. I have God's protection. But surely these attacks, whether they're from the federal government to our radio show, or whether it's in person with some raging lunatic, insane, crazy man, regardless of who it is or why it is, we know that it all comes, again, from the devil. And an interesting tidbit, the individual that broke in and attacked me in the past, I did have a confrontation with him, and he admitted to me that he is not a Christian and that he knows he's headed for hell, and he's proud of it. So I guess he can be proud of going to hell in jail. Well, Rand Paul is in the news. I saw over the weekend Rand Paul announcing he's good to go. He's running for president. He says that his first order of business is defeating Ted Cruz. And what I think is funny is that Rand Paul wants the support of you and I, conservative Christians. Wants the support of you and I. I can tell you firsthand, I will never support Rand Paul. I'm offended by what he did to his father. His father was running for the presidency. His father was up against Mitt Romney. And Rand Paul threw his support to Mitt Romney while his dad was still in the race. I mean, that's almost as low down as choking somebody at 2:30 in the morning while they're sleeping. But Rand Paul now is facing some heat from the Associated Press. The Associated Press tried to corner Rand Paul on abortion by asking him to state definitively which exceptions to a ban that he would support. And what's funny is that if somebody asks me that, I can tell you that I want no exceptions. Abortion is never a good thing. And so there should be no exceptions. All abortions must be illegal. Well, when Rand Paul danced around the question, the AP dutifully sent out the story hoping the media would continue asking him about his stance. Well, that's exactly what happened at a press conference yesterday afternoon, but this time Rand Paul was ready for him. So I will give him credit that at that point he was prepared. And that's a good thing. But again, when the news media tries to demonize you because you don't support abortion, then to hell with the news media. I can tell you right now, abortion is evil. Well, I'm delving into the story now. 2016 presidential candidate Rand Paul made his position on abortion crystal clear finally. And I can say that I do appreciate his stance on abortion. He even forced the hand of the DNC chairman, Debbie Wasserman Schultz, goading her into an admission that she is in favor of limitless abortions, including late-term abortions, up until the day of birth. Wow. So you're about to have your child, and the Democrats think it's okay to kill that child then? But again, when Rand Paul was asked by an obviously partisan AP reporter about his views on abortion and what exemptions to a ban he would support, he responded by noting how the debate is always framed to shoot down his opinions. He said, here's the deal. We always seem to have the debate way over here on what are the exact details of exemptions or when it starts. He said, why don't we ask the DNC, is it okay to kill a 7-pound baby in the uterus? You go back and ask Debbie Wasserman Schultz if she's okay with killing a 7-pound baby that is not born yet. Ask her when life begins. And you ask Debbie when it's okay to protect life. When you get an answer from Debbie, get back to me, he said. The wild thing is that Wasserman Schultz did reply, given the following answer to the reporters. This is the sick stuff. She said, here's the answer. I support letting women and their doctors make this decision without government getting involved. Period. End of story. Now your turn, Senator Paul. We know you want to allow government officials like yourself to make this decision for women. But do you stand by your opposition to any exceptions, even when it comes to rape, incest, or the life of the mother? Or do we just have different definitions of personal liberty? And I'd appreciate it if you could respond without shushing me. Well, in an appearance on CNN, Rand Paul stood his ground and told Wolf Blitzer it appeared the Democratic leader wasn't opposed to late-term abortions. He said, well, it sounds like her answer is yes, that she's okay with killing a 7-pound baby. How sick is that? How insane is that? It's just incredible that anyone would want to kill any child at all. Well, Rand Paul added that even most of my friends who are pro-choice are opposed to those abortions. But Debbie's position, which I guess is the Democratic Party's position, is that all abortion, and abortion all the way up until the day of birth, would be fine. I think that most pro-choice people would be really uncomfortable with that, he said. He added, so I don't know, I really think she's got some explaining to do. Well, the procedure for late-term abortions is horrific, but it gives some context to note what it entails. The unborn child is rotated until it is facing feet downwards. Then the body's yanked out of the uterus, with the exception of its head, and out of the woman's body. A hole is then punctured into the base of the fetal skull, and the brains are sucked out through a tube. Sick, sick stuff. Sick. Well, many Twitter users agree with Rand Paul that it is Wasserman Schultz that has further explaining to do on the subject rather than the senator himself. So now it's all about damage control for the DNC, right? 253-323-7555. We are 3/4 of the way through the show. And I want to thank you for listening. Thank you for being a part of the Jon Arthur Live Radio Show. Thanks for hanging in there with us through all of the madness. All of the madness of the government and the military and the police going and harassing us through our equipment and through our computers and through our internet service. And then supporting me even when I'm down for the count after being assaulted in the middle of the night while I slept. Again, this is what the devil does. This is what the devil's all about. The devil is all about being an author of confusion, and the devil is all about being a low-down scum. It's all about, again, being a coward. 253-323-7555. You know, Obama and his gun control push is now backfiring. It's backfiring, folks. And I can tell you that the industry is growing. Production of guns has soared to more than 10.8 million. Manufactured in 2013 alone, double the total of just 3 years earlier. So this gun control push is backfiring. The gun industry is seeing an unprecedented surge in sales. The American firearms industry is as healthy as ever, seeing an unprecedented surge that has sent production of guns soaring to more than 10.8 million manufactured in, like I said, 2013. That surge, the latest for which the government has figures, came in the first full year after what we talked about earlier. After the December 2012 shooting at Sandy Hook Elementary School, signaling that the push for stricter gun controls, backed by Obama, did very little to chill the industry despite the passage of stricter laws in states like New York and Maryland and Connecticut and even California. Indeed, interest in guns appears to be at an all-time high in California, which shattered its previous record for gun purchase background checks. Nearly 200,000 processed, suggesting a vibrant firearms market in the country's most populous state. Industry backers say they aren't surprised that firearms buyers and manufacturers have responded to the national gun control debate by making and purchasing even more. So, again, my friends, this is the insanity. And I can tell you, you and I have got to continue supporting the Second Amendment right to keep and bear arms. You and I can no longer stand idly by and let all of this happen. We have to stand strong. We have to support our First Amendment right to free speech and continue to support our right to keep and bear arms. Period. So that's some good news today. The good news tonight on the show. Gun sales are surging in America. I like it. Love it, my friends. Love it. 253-323-7555. 253-323-7555. An idiotic police state story. This may or may not close out the radio show. But I couldn't resist because, and I want to say that the police officers that came out and who arrested the guy that assaulted me in the middle of the night, they did their job, but they were far from sympathetic. Even the police officers that I encountered had very little sympathy for someone who endured a choking in the middle of the night while sleeping. So, You know, I see these police officers, and I'm sure there's good ones out there. I just haven't ever met them. Story out of Detroit. A Detroit police lieutenant and a police officer are accused of robbing drug dealers. I'm not making this up. I wish I was. I mean, wow. Who are the bad guys, and who are the good guys? Can you tell me that? When you've got police officers robbing the drug dealers, you start wondering who the bad guys are and who the good guys are. I mean, really? It's just madness. It is utter, insane madness. But I digress. The lieutenant and the officer are accused of robbing the drug dealer, stealing money and drugs obtained during police searches. They were arraigned on charges today, by the way. So, wow. Okay. So you got this guy that is a police lieutenant. Got another guy, a regular police officer, and they're shaking down the drug dealers. They're stealing from the drug dealers. So, again, another example of who's the bad guy and who's the good. The indictment, which came down Wednesday, unsealed today, comes months after Detroit Police Chief James Craig disbanded the department's troubled drug unit, and officers became the target of a federal investigation. Lieutenant David Hansberry and Officer Brian Watson are now facing charges of conspiracy to possess with intent to distribute narcotics, conspiracy to interfere with commerce by robbery, possession with intent to distribute 5 or more kilograms of cocaine, possession of a firearm in the furtherance of a crime of possession, possession of a firearm in the furtherance of a crime of violence, and drug trafficking crimes in multiple counts of interference with commerce by robbery and extortion. These are the cops. These are not the bad guys charged with this. These are what the policemen are charged with. So do you understand that when I expose these people, I do so because these people are truly, truly the criminals? It's outlandish. Kelvin Omar Brown, who the indictment says is an associate of Hansberry, is charged also with 1 count of interference with commerce by robbery or extortion. So, wow. You've got these folks that are pretending to be the saviors, right? And ultimately, it is a sad fact that the police officers are the bad ones. They're the ones you got to worry about. They're the ones that you have to stay clear of. I mean, we talked about the story earlier in the show where these thug cops, they assaulted teenagers and then tried to delete the evidence of the assault from the phone. You know, and I find it just outlandish. I find it incredible. I truly, truly do. 253-323-7555. We've only got a couple of minutes left in the show. And I really, really want to hear from you folks. So please make an attempt at least to call the 253 number and give us folks your comments about the show. Tell us how we can make the show better. Let us know if you support the programming here on First Amendment Radio Network and this radio show. Let us know that you support us in our fight against what this government is doing to us, what this new world order is planning for you and I. Because I can tell you it's not good, my friends. It's not a good thing. They've got a lot of garbage planned for you and I, and it's not good. 253-323-7555. And I appreciate each and every one of you. I've said it before, I'll say it again. We've got about 30 seconds left on the show, folks. Continue to support Nicholas Arthur. Continue to support this radio network. And thank you for supporting the Jon Arthur Live radio show. We'll see you tomorrow, I promise. The creek don't rise. We'll be here.
Since the beginning of time, kings have sought it, nations have fought for it. It has been traded, it has been borrowed, it has been purchased, it has been stolen. There's a reason for it. To secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and to our posterity. Invest with the security of gold and silver. Call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188 or visit discountgoldandsilvertrading.net. Listen to Financial Survival with your host, Melody Cedarstrom, right here on FirstAmendmentRadio.com at 4 p.m. Eastern or 1 p.m. Pacific Time. Visit DiscountGoldandSilverTrading.net or call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188. Toll free, 1-800-375-4188. Hear it first on FirstAmendmentRadio.com and FirstAmendmentRadio.net.
Unfolding massacre at the Yarmouk refugee camp in Syria.
A refugee camp is beginning to resemble a death camp.
But Ban Ki-moon says he's made uneasy by plans to eject militants of the so-called Islamic State by force.
We should look at, addressing this issue at the roots and try to establish an inclusive society.
An estimated 18,000 Syrians and Palestinians are trapped inside Yarmouk. After a 2-year government siege, IS fighters overran much of the camp last week.
President Obama says he is nearing a decision on removing Cuba from the U.S. list of state terrorism sponsors. Cuba is just one of 4 nations on the list, a big sticking point as Washington and Havana look to renew ties. The president is expected to quickly formalize removing Cuba once he gets a recommendation from government agencies, whom he says are now going over a State Department review.
I won't make a formal announcement today about what those recommendations are. I'll wait until